Was Sunday an anomaly or a sign of things to come from the 49ers? We'll talk about that tonight on the Hammer and Nails Show. Yo, it is I almost said Thursday night. I'm so used to saying that when I got Jessie on here. It's Tuesday night, Hammer and Nail Show. Jack Hammer with me, Jessie Naylor as always. How you doing, Jessie?
I'm doing fantastic, Jack. As always, ready to roll. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's get into it. We're a little bit late. Got a bunch of folks over in the comments section already, so got to get this thing rolling. I'll throw it out to you real quick. You answer this first. Sunday, was that an anomaly or a sign of things to come for the 49ers?
A little bit of both. I think defensively, it's probably a bit of an anomaly. You're playing against arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. I think the second best quarterback, but a lot of people think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. And you're just, there's going to be times where you give up points. Even the 2000 Baltimore Ravens had a game where they gave up 36 points. These things do happen to every team at some point during the season. I think you had a perfect storm of a great quarterback coming into town. You had the whirlwind of the whole Christian McCaffrey trade. You add in the fact that you had a bunch of players that have been in and out of the lineup. Are they healthy? Are they not? They kind of just threw it together and hoped that it would all work. But a lot of these guys didn't practice all week. And so you have a situation where you give up a ton of points. So I don't expect that to happen. But what I am worried about is this offense. And I believe that this is what we're basically going to see from this offense. Sure, they're going to have a game here or there where they're a little bit more explosive like they were against Carolina. But I think they're going to continue to struggle to score, especially as they play some of these good teams. And that's just kind of what we're going to have to get used to the rest of the season, I believe, at least from the offensive standpoint.
Yeah, well, for me, I look at this and I kind of go the other direction. I don't think this game was quite the anomaly that we want to make it out to be. Yeah, the 49ers defense, they look bad, but we've seen them do this before. They've shown a tendency now a few times they've shown themselves to not necessarily, when they need to make a stop, they haven't shown themselves to be able to be a team that makes a stop. And what I mean by that is you go to week 1, they gave up 3 touchdowns on 3 consecutive drives. You go into week 3, they played terrific almost the entire game until they had to get a stop up 5 late in the fourth quarter, and they could not get a stop on 3rd down, and they go right down the field and score a touchdown, win the game. Yeah, I know the offense sucks. Get it. The last week against Atlanta, same thing. Defense could not get off the field. The offense finally figures it out a little bit, ties the game up. Defense has 3rd and 12 on the ensuing drive, picks it up, and they go right down the field and score a touchdown. Get the ball to start the second half, right down the field and score a touchdown. Yes, on Sunday against the Chiefs, you get the interception on the 3rd play of the game. From there, you don't get a stop the rest of the game until Patrick Mahomes gets pulled out. They scored touchdowns. They really scored touchdowns on 7 straight drives, and one of them just got called back, and then they missed a field goal. This defense is good, but it's nowhere near the level that we thought it was.
Yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with some of the opponents early on. And I'm actually really surprised, Jack, because I thought that the 49ers this is now the second season where I thought they would play a lot of cover 1 or a lot of man. And especially in situations where it's 3rd and long, that they would just kind of come up, the corners would press, jam receivers, cause some timing issues, allow that defensive line to get home, and just have a lot of turnovers. Now, they have created some turnovers on 3rd down, but not in the fashion that I thought. They're still playing a lot of soft zone. I really thought a lot of that was because of the corners they had last year, going out and investing in man corners, not only in a big signing, Charvarius Ward, but through the draft, everybody that they've brought in has been more of a man corner type. Yet they continue to play more of a zone, especially in these 3rd and long situations. I I don't know. I'm kind of lost as to why. I don't understand. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's not what I expected to see from this defense personally. And it's not just this last game. It's really been that way for 2 years now. So you might be right. I mean, this defense may not be as good as what we thought. I tend to think that it's closer to what we saw early on than what we saw Sunday. But even closer means if you give up 3 to 7 more points on average, can the offense keep up? Well, no, they can't. So that's kind of where we're at with things.
Yeah, they are, one of the things that I'll say is I don't disagree with you that they maybe can play some more man coverage, but they're predictable on defense.
Mhm.
We hear this a
Mhm.
lot about Kyle Shanahan. They're predictable on defense. You know that you're going to get man coverage on third down. You know what you're going to get. You know when it's 3rd and 1, and you know you're going to get it. And Andrew Reid took advantage of it. He dialed up throughout the game. He took advantage of everything that the 49ers were going to bring to him. But I'm not seeing a group that's improved. The big play for me and what got them going, 3rd and 1, second possession, the 49ers get up and man press coverage. The Chiefs they know what's coming, so they line up Travis Kelce out wide. They motion them into a bunch because they know that they're going to get man coverage. The 49ers, instead of changing what they're doing and changing their principles, they stay in their man coverage, and it allows an easy pick of Tayshaun Gibson. He has no chance to make the play, and it's an easy pitch and catch in a 20-something yard gain. And from that point on, they didn't get a stop. They weren't close. So I agree with you. I don't think it's going to continue to be as bad as it was on Sunday. That's because you're not going to be facing Patrick Mahomes every week. But I think they're somewhere in between where they were here and what we saw of them in the beginning of the season. I think it might be a little bit of a break for them that they're facing the Rams on Sunday. It might be a little bit of a break just because that offensive line might help their defensive line get healthy again, actually get some sacks. But I think we overestimated that defense.
Yeah. I think I struggle because if the defense was fully healthy, I don't think we did overestimate it. I think Eric Armstead, people want to say what they say about Armstead. Armstead is a key cog, especially in the run game. We saw the difference he made last year when they could not stop the run. As soon as they moved him inside, instant. They're able to stop the run and hold almost every team for the rest of the year under 90 yards rushing. He goes out for a game or two, it held, but really the last 2 games it hasn't held. They're gutting the 49ers up the middle. And so when you're getting behind on down and distance on 1st and 2nd down, it's almost impossible to hold teams in the NFL the way that rules are geared for throwing an offense. I think if Armstead's on this team, if Mosley's on this team, this defense is every bit as good as what we saw early on. Unfortunately, they're not going to get Mosley back. We know Armstead's not going to play this week. They have a bye week after this week. Does he come back after that? The hope is yes, but there's no guarantee of that. So the defense as it stands right now certainly is not what we thought it was early on because it frankly isn't. They don't have the same players in the same places to make those plays.
Sure. And I think the other thing too, and I get what you're saying with Eric Armstead. That's a big piece. If they had Eric Armstead against Atlanta, I think that helps them out. I don't think Eric Armstead helps the 49ers out that much against the Chiefs with what the Chiefs were doing, because you had Mecole Hardman running around the edge, not being touched. You had Clyde Edwards-Helaire run around the edge, not get touched on those touchdown runs. Those were easy, and it was interesting watching those. It's watching the film on that and watching how the Chiefs run their jet sweeps and watching how the 49ers run theirs. Talked about a little bit today on my film breakdown of the offense. The Chiefs offensive linemen, they don't block anybody at the line of scrimmage when the Chiefs run their jet sweeps. They take a step inside and then get upfield, and they're blocking at the second level. They don't even care about the defensive lineman. Whereas the 49ers, you've got Aaron Banks standing there hugging a guy at the line of scrimmage who isn't going to make the play anyway. And that's not Aaron Banks' fault. That's the way that's what he's taught to be doing. So it's an interesting. It was. I just don't think that would have changed this game in particular. Maybe it'll change what happens down against the Rams down the road. I don't think it would have changed this one. I think this one was just a game in which the 49ers defense, you know, Travarius Ward, Jimmy Ward, they were targeted Jimmy Ward targeted 6 times. He gave up 6 catches and a touchdown. Travarius Ward targeted 6 times, 6 receptions, and a 57-yard completion. So the 49ers' best guys, the only guys that were missing out of this secondary that were supposed to be the 49ers' best players was Emmanuel Mosley. And it didn't even matter because they were taking advantage of everybody else. And you just saw a 49ers defense that was completely outclassed against the Chiefs throughout this game.
Oh, 100%. The Chiefs are just a better team, and it's not close right now. Not even close.
Yeah, and I know that's kind of people might not like that take, but I just don't. We'll see. The 49ers defense might step up. They might prove me wrong. They might, and then everybody can come and tell me that I'm an idiot, and that's cool. That's part of this deal, right? The other thing too, and there was a lot of chatter about it throughout the game. You and I talked about a little bit was let's stay this way. Let's say Robert Griffin Jr. went on and said that everything's got to be perfect around the 49ers for them to be successful with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. Mm-hmm. I don't disagree with him, but if you're basing the game on Sunday to make that comment, I disagree, and I'll let you kind of give your take on it.
Yeah, I fully agree with him. And Jack, I said last week that Jimmy can't overcome this team, but this team can overcome Jimmy. I was wrong. This team no longer can overcome Jimmy. They're not good enough anymore. And I'm not just saying Jimmy. It would have been the same with Lance. Let me be clear about this, because they are now in a position where this team needs a quarterback that can go out and win them games. They don't have that. They wouldn't have had that early on with Lance. Now, again, the hope was towards the end of the season, you make the playoffs, Lance can become that guy. But early on, he was not going to be that guy. Jimmy has never been that guy. So they have been a team that has had a net zero quarterback for quite some time, and they've been able to win with that. Jimmy Garoppolo's record over, the last 20 or so games has not been very good at all. Nothing like what you see displayed every Sunday when it's, without Jimmy, they're this, and with Jimmy, they're that. They no longer are good enough to win without a quarterback that can go win you games, not consistently. That's where this 49er team is at. This is not the 2019 team. This is not the defense from last year that was able to do its thing, and Debo was able to take everybody by surprise and go win the game. Now, maybe they can re-become that, but right now they are not that team whatsoever. As far as on Sunday, I want to be clear. I do not at all put that loss on Jimmy Garoppolo. However, he is not above criticism based off of what happened. I don't know how the game would have played out. It's impossible to say. One change of a play and how it happened changes the whole outcome of everything. It's just the way life works. But when your defense and special teams in the first half, let's keep the second half separate because we saw what happened. That was abysmal by that defense. But that defense and that special teams got 2 turnovers for that offense in very, very good field position. They came away with 7 total points. Minimum, you would come away with 6 points because you were basically in field goal range for both, essentially. When you have 2 turnovers against the Chiefs that gives your offense those extra chances, and the Chiefs miss a field goal, and you're still down at halftime, the offense is a problem. The offense is simply a problem. It just is. Now, the quarterback's going to get most of the blame because he's the quarterback, and the coach is going to get the blame because they both deserve blame. Everybody on the team deserves blame on the offensive side. They cannot score points. That's unacceptable. Now, it's completely overshadowed because the defense chose this game to have its worst game. Possibly other than the Miami game, and maybe even the Miami game included, the worst defensive performance of the Shanahan era. So everybody wants to talk about that. So yes, this game is isolated on the defense. But the overall problem of this team has been and will continue to probably be the offense. They cannot score points. And my point is, I don't know how the game plays out, but if you are up at halftime, when you go down 12 in the second half, assuming everything plays out the same, when you go down 12, you're only down 5. It allows you to do a whole bunch of different things. When you're within one score instead of two scores in a lot of those situations, you can still run the ball pretty consistently. You can still do the things that make you successful as a team. But the moment you're down 2 scores against an offense like this, you're completely out of rhythm. You're out of pocket. You're throwing all over the place. You can't run the ball, nothing. It doesn't work that way. So I just think the defense played so poorly in this game that everybody is glossing over that the offense still sucks. And Jimmy's contributing to that because he's the trigger puller.
Yeah, you talked. There was a whole bunch that went into that. One thing that I'll say is, I disagree on the fact that the running game, the score had anything to do with the fact that they went pass heavy. The 49ers on their first 11 plays ran the ball 7 times, threw it 4. After that, they threw the ball. The rest of the half, they had the ball 23 times, 23 plays. They ran it 6. So they went pass heavy in the first half when they were up 7. They went pass heavy in the first half when they were down 1. It didn't take for them to be down multiple scores for them to go pass heavy. And this is one of the areas that they've struggled in all years over these last 5 weeks because for whatever reason they stopped running the ball and they just start throwing it around the yard. Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to win you a bunch of games doing that. The defense got a turnover. You scored a touchdown. Special teams, you didn't. Here's the thing: the way that I look at it. Let's say they score a touchdown right there. Let's don't even go with the field goal. Let's say it's a touchdown. Let's say they score a touchdown and they go for 2 and they get it. It's 21-14. There's still a minute and 28 to go in the game, in the first half. This is the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that we know we've seen the Chiefs win games go 50 yards in 10 seconds,
12 seconds, 9 seconds or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is a team that if you just watch how the game played out, they went from their own 6 to a touchdown. The touchdown got called back because of a call, but they did all that work quick. Now, just because the 49ers score a touchdown, that doesn't mean the Chiefs don't go back down and score. They might not score a touchdown. They might have kicked a field goal. We don't know because now once we change what the 49ers are doing, we're changing the rest of the game. And that's, I think, partly for me when I look at this game and I'm seeing like the comments that are being made about the 49ers inability to keep up. The 49ers offense isn't the Chiefs offense. And I'd be lying to you if I said it was. But the defense at some point needs to make a stop. They need to make a play at some point. And you go back to the game like when against the, people want to point to like the New Orleans game, for example, from 2019, which was a shootout that the 49ers won. But even in that shootout game, the 49ers defense came up with stops throughout the game. There were stops. They had like 13 possessions in that game. The Chiefs only had 10, I think 9 possessions in the ball game. So it wasn't like they were moving up and down the field. So 49ers score, let's just say 49ers score 21-14. Likelihood of the Chiefs not scoring right there, given that they just gone 73 and 90 yards the 2 previous times they have the ball, unlikely. So let's just make it 21-17 at the half. And then you get a touchdown. I mean, you get a touchdown, makes it 24-21. And then you get a field goal, it's tied up at 24, and the Chiefs score a touchdown. It didn't matter what the 49ers did. They were down 5 2 times in the second half. This offense came back twice to put them back to pull within 5 points, pulled within 21-16, right? Right after the first possession, they both scored 21-16. The Chiefs have convert on third down, score another touchdown. 3rd and 20, they get 34 yards, score a touchdown. So now it's 28 to 16. 49ers score a touchdown, it's 28-23. You got third and 11, 57 yards, third and touchdown, 3rd and 6 later on, 45 yards. The defense couldn't do anything. And so to think that this offense was going to score 43 points, I think that wasn't going to happen. And you can say it was Garoppolo and whatever, and I'm not saying you are. I'm talking in general, like in this discussion of that game. The 49ers couldn't get off the field on defense, and you don't come back. You don't win games when your defense gives up 6 straight touchdown drives. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think the hard part is that we both agree everything changes if you score there. It just does. So we don't know. We don't know that they would have scored every possession in the second half. We don't know what would have been the result to in the first. We don't know. Chances are, yes, Kansas City would have still put up points because it's Kansas City. But again, the whole mentality changes. Play calls change. Every situation becomes different if you're within a score instead of 2 scores in a lot of these situations in the second half. It's impossible to say. And again, I'm not trying to make, my point is not, hey, if they score there, they win that game. That is not what I'm trying to say. My overall arching point is the defense played abysmal. We all agree on that. That being said, that is the first poor performance we've had from this defense all season long. The offense has had we'll say 2, because Seattle. And even then, they struggled in the second half once Seattle realized they're not playing Lance anymore and they had a Jimmy game plan. But they've had one really good game of offense, another half of a game of good offense. And outside of that, they're struggling. They're going to continue to struggle. And unless they do have an all-time great defense like they started out the season with, and even then they were still finding a way to lose games, it's going to be a rough season. It's going to be an up and down season, and we'll see how it plays out. But the offense, my takeaway from that game is, yes, the defense was horrible in that game, but still the offense is not good again.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I disagree again. I don't think that was the first time we've seen this from the defense. I just think it's the first time that people are really paying attention to it. It happened against Atlanta. It was easier to blame the offense in Atlanta.
They only gave up 21 against Atlanta, though.
Okay. The score was 14.
They held them under their season average.
Okay. It was 14-14. 3rd and 12, deep in your own end. They gave up a first down. They go right down the field and score a touchdown. It's now 21-14. They get the ball to start the second half, and they give up another one. The same kind of stuff. And so Kyle Shanahan mentioned it in the postgame or Monday, I think afterwards, and people kind of mocked him for it. But he was right, because your defense, when you're behind and you're in a situation like that, you've got to come up with stops. And this defense has done this multiple times now. Like I said in the beginning, they did it in week 1. They did it in week 3. They did it in week 6, and they did it this last week, where this defense is really good when they're ahead. When they're in front and everything is working for them, they're really good. When they get a little bit of, when the ball starts rolling against them, it grows and it grows and it grows. And we've seen them do this. And that's why I'm saying it's not like this was a one-off. Justin Fields did it to him. Russell Wilson, for as bad as he played, he put a drive together to win the game. I understand the offense was awful in that game, and it probably shouldn't have come to that, but it did. And so I'm just saying, we've seen this defense break in situations all year long. So I just don't think that 44 points, definitely different, but the 28 the week before, I think that if they just kept playing that game, and if Atlanta wasn't up 2 scores, like you say, I don't think that game is a 28-14 game. If the 49ers offense was scoring points, I think you would have seen the Falcons put a little bit more behind trying to get down the field and throwing the ball and stuff like that. Just my opinion.
Yeah, and I want to correct Shylock. Yes, the score was 28, but 7 of that was from the offense gave up 7 points. The offense scored 14 and gave up 7. The defense gave up 21 points. So, yes, the Falcons scored 28, but they only scored 21 on the defense. They scored 7 on the offense.
No, you're right. No, and that's completely accurate. That's yeah. I don't know why that shouldn't even be a discussion point. It was 21 points, but in watching that game, there was really no point at all, which it seemed like, other than the one stop after it was 14-7, and they got the one stop, um, and they got the punt return and tied it. From that point on, uh, you saw back to back, just back-breaking drives. Uh, there's been a lot of talk about Kyle Shanahan as well. Like, what's your take on Kyle Shanahan right now? We talked about him last week, but I want to hear what you have to say this week with him.
I mean,
If it's changed at all.
I don't know how, as the leader of the team, people are unwilling to hold him accountable, are unwilling to act as if he takes no blame in this thing. Mm-hmm. Yes, the execution is horrible. Yes, you're getting penalties left and right. Yes, you're having drop passes. Yes, Jimmy's missing players open all over the field. Yes, you're getting boneheaded fumbles and these things, but this all comes back to coaching. At the end of the day, you're choosing to put these players in these positions. You're choosing when to play these guys, who you're playing, when to call their number. Everything goes back to the head coach. Ultimately, winning and losing, whether fair or not, falls on the head coach. It just does. Mm-hmm. And when you are this bad in second half scoring the way that they have been throughout this season, I think going into last week, they were ranked 26th or 28th with just around 6 points a game. And that was because of the Panthers game. Otherwise, they'd be closer to like 3-point-something points a game. When you're that bad in the second half, and by the way, all of a sudden stats start coming out of, oh, this isn't a one-season thing. This is since he's been with the 49ers thing. Mm-hmm. They struggle to put up points consistently in the second half. That is an issue. It just is. And so I'm a big, if you are going to call out a problem, you got to have the solution. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if we fire Shanahan, who for sure I would hire. I've got names, but I can't guarantee they would do a better job. I'm just saying that Shanahan is not who some people think he is. He's not. And until he proves otherwise, until he figures out how to win some of these games that are tight when you're not leading, and not give up 10-point leads, and to have your offense consistently in the top 10 in scoring, he's just not that guy. He's not who some people think he is. He's not.
And I don't disagree with you. I'm going to pull this up really quick because this kind of goes along with my response, and my piece of it is NorCal 2225. Jack, do you think Kyle stopped running even though they were finding success because he was worried about keeping up with KC? Why not just keep running until KC can stop it? I agree with this 100%. I think this is exactly what happened. And you have multiple examples of stuff like this with Kyle Shanahan. He takes himself out of the game. You have certain things that are happening or whatever. Go back to the Super Bowl. The last time he played Kansas City, they had the lead by 10 points. And instead of running the ball, you're still throwing it, even though you're running the ball at a decent clip. You're throwing the ball around, and every time you throw an incompletion, it's stopping the clock. And we saw it last year. Let's take Jimmy Garoppolo out of it, for example. We saw that last year in Arizona against the Cardinals with Trey Lance at quarterback. We saw Arizona score once, maybe twice right away in that game. And then you see the 49ers get down into a position where you should probably kick a field goal, put some points on the board. And instead of putting points on the board, they go for it. And, Lance gets tackled, inside the one. And so you don't get anything out of it. And that happened a couple of times. You're chasing points the whole game. And instead of Kyle Shanahan gets too busy coaching, worrying about the other team's offense instead of just worrying about his own. I think that's the easiest. If you want to say it in one sentence, that's the end. That's what it is. Kyle Shanahan is too busy about the other side of the field instead of what he's got. And he gets away from stuff. And, I know what you're talking about with the people that'll back up Kyle Shanahan. And I'll do that to a certain point as well. If I think that he's coaching, there's always a portion of it, which is to say that this offense is not winning or doing well because of execution, well, no shit. But whose job is it? That's Kyle Shanahan's job. And I think that part of that is you also, I think one piece that we're missing, and I don't think we've talked about it, and it's something that we, look into a little bit more. They've got a lot of new coaches, and they've got a lot of new coaches who haven't really been successful in the NFL in the past. Anthony Lynn was mediocre at best. I think as an offensive coordinator, wasn't very good as a head coach. He's got a guy that's coaching wide receivers that's never done it before. He's got a guy coaching tight ends that's never done it before. He lost 2 assistant offensive line coaches last year. He lost a defensive coach off the staff last year, at least one, maybe a couple of them. I mean, there's a lot of change on this coaching staff. And so when you start to look at things, and one of the, all of the little things that are causing this team, they changed their special teams coordinator, all these changes that they've made on the coaching staff, and this team doesn't look like it's better coached. We went into this last offseason with knowing that the special teams was an issue. The special teams they brought in 3 guys, players now, to fix their special teams. Oren Burks, George, whatever
Odom.
His name is, Odom, and Ray McLeod. They've given up 3 kickoff returns of 45 plus yards in the last 3 weeks. They've had 2 kicks blocked. One of them returned for a touchdown. Ray McLeod is averaging a yard less per kickoff return than the team did last year. So who's to blame? The coach. And the coach is Kyle Shanahan. So, yes, he draws up some really pretty plays, and I'll continue to defend him on some things. But this is a team. Kyle Shanahan's a guy who's coached for a long time in this league as an offense coordinator or as head coach. He's never had winning seasons back to back. He's never had an offense that's been able to score in the top half of the league back to back. He's not even close to having that last stat as far as top half of the league in scoring. I don't even know in half of his years of coaching. So there's a lot to like about him, but I get the questions, and I'm starting to kind of chuckle at some of the defenses of them, because the thing is, hey, who are they going to bring in to replace Kyle Shanahan? I don't know. Don't have an idea for you right now. But not like he's setting the world on fire either.
No, he's not. He's not, and he never has from a point standpoint. I think between being a head coach and an offensive coordinator, he's had, I think, 16 total seasons, and 9 of those seasons, his offenses and points scored have finished 20th or worse 9 times. Like only 4 times have they finished in the top 10, and 6 total times they've finished outside of the top 20, like in a good way. Mm-hmm. He's not the genius that people want to say that he is offensively. I'm sorry. That's not genius numbers. Geniuses always get the best out of all their players on a regular basis. When I can look at Matt Patricia, who's an atrocious head coach, and a defensive guy with Bailey frickin' Zappi and who God knows what kind of receivers over there, can put up more points a game than what you're putting up, that's a problem. And when your points per game through 7 games match what you had in 2017, essentially, when you had no weapons, and you have now an all-pro at every level of your offense, that's a problem. And for those that say, hey, what's he supposed to do? It's Jimmy Garoppolo. Look at how limited he is. And yeah, Jimmy's here because Kyle wants him here. Kyle gave up his plan of Kirk Cousins and was okay with bringing in Jimmy Garoppolo. When Tom Brady was available, he kept Jimmy Garoppolo. When he went all in and drafted Trey Lance instead of starting Trey Lance, he started Jimmy Garoppolo. That's not Jimmy's fault. Jimmy didn't choose all those things. Kyle did. So now you're living with it. When you're the chef and you shop for your own groceries and you're buying expired meat and your food doesn't turn out right, I don't say, well, not the chef's fault. Well, yeah, I do. It is the chef's fault because he bought the expired meat too. So everything falls back on Kyle. It just does.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you on that. And there was somebody who I think I saw a super chat. I can't find it. I don't want to have you pay again. So hit me up in the comment section, put at Jack Hammer over there so that I see it, and I'll make sure that I get to your question or comment. I apologize. We're talking about something else, and
I see it.
lost
It's
track of it.
William Handy. He says, what offense can win if your defense can't get 1 3 and out until Mahomes was benched? They scored every drive. One turnover wasn't going to do it. William, I agree with you, but my point is that we're talking about the Kansas City game. I'm talking about the whole season. The whole season, the offense has been an issue, and the offense again was not great in this game. It wasn't. So the overarching problem of this team has been the offense. It has. You can place the blame wherever you want, but the offense isn't doing its job to go out and win these games on a regular basis. The defense has certainly done a much better job throughout the season. This game, 100%. If you want to blame this game on the defense, that's fine. But the offense has not done a good job game in and game out throughout the almost entirety of the season.
Yeah.
Especially in the losses.
Okay. And I'm going to throw this one up real quick. Oh, I like this one. Look at that. Dirk Pippen, the member of the toolbox. He's got a good one right there. Coach Deion Sanders.
Hey, I'm not against that one.
I'm not either, because I think Deion Sanders is a really good coach. I don't know if he's an NFL coach because of these. I think he might be a little bit too rah-rah for the NFL, but he's doing work in college ranks, that's for sure. Daryl comes in with a super chat. Thank you for the other, William, for your super chat as well. $5. Thank you. Harbaugh was there at the game, invited by the 49ers. Yes, sir, he was. Saw him up there ringing the bell. And that kind of goes along with what Randall Riley says here. How about get an offensive coordinator that's got some fresh ideas and let the head coach be a head coach? And the reason I bring that up right after the previous one about Harbaugh being there is, well, that's kind of what Jim Harbaugh did. He was the CEO. He was the head coach. He let the coaches coach, and he managed the game. He probably got involved with some play calls every once in a while, but I got such a chuckle out of people last week trying to tell me that talk about Harbaugh, and God, Harbaugh only won because he had a loaded roster. Gotcha.
Yeah, well, I would say this roster is loaded and they're not winning. So,
yeah, right. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that whole thing could be taken, and it'd be fun that's a whole nother conversation, because I believe that Harbaugh is an excellent head coach, a lot better than people around here believe. Yeah, I mean, if you have a guy that's maybe that might be the direction, and that's where you get some of these. There are good coaches that are out there. There were people who I don't think, who was it? Arthur Smith? Is he the guy in Atlanta? I don't think people were really jumping around for him because he was just, I don't know. It's interesting. There's guys out there that can coach their asses off, and Kyle Shanahan's a good football coach. We'll see what happens. I thought he did a good job of turning the team around last year, but there's a lot of problems with this team right now. Dabuda. I say that I screwed this all the way. He fixed it the other day. Dabuda. Thank you. He says, is Jimmy raw dogging it? I don't know about that. Come on now. All right. Let's go. This is the topic of the show. We're running late. We got about 5 minutes to talk about this one. Should the 49ers trade for Mac Jones this offseason? Or maybe not even wait for the offseason and just trade for him before the trade deadline?
I wanted to bring this up with you specifically because you're a Mac Jones guy. And I just I find it interesting. I almost tweeted this out last night, and then I left it. But I said maybe the 49ers can be everything the Panthers are, but instead of Mayfield and Darnold, they can do it with Lance and Mac. But yeah, Mac Jones is I'm not saying he's available, but he got benched last night. Bailey started out hot. He didn't end so hot. We'll see what happens next week. But the rumor is that right now they are frustrated because Mac Jones isn't able to handle the simple reads. And that's kind of an issue if you can't trust your quarterback to do those things. It reminds me of when the rumor came out last year against the Bears and Shanahan asked Jimmy Garoppolo, "This is simple shit. Can you handle it?" That's what this reminds me of for Mac Jones, though. And it sounds like he's not able to handle it right now for whatever reason. Maybe Belichick's worn on him. I don't know. But he might be available. And if he is, should the 49ers go and get him? Maybe be the backup next year, compete for the starting job? I say absolutely not. But I really, really want to hear what your thoughts are on this one.
Nah, I mean, at this point right now, with where we are, I mean, I would have been fine with the 49ers taking him in the draft, but I'm not trading for Mac Jones at this point. We have a better idea of what Mac Jones is than what Trey Lance is, and I think that Mac Jones is a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo, and that he's going to move. He's got a little bit better of an arm. He can move around better than Jimmy Garoppolo. I think you put him on this team, and I think they probably are a little bit better offensively than they are. But you've already invested. The investment's been made. You've sunk the money, so to speak, in terms of the draft capital. You've made your bed with Trey Lance, and everything they're doing is directed towards going with Trey Lance. And what are they going to do? They trade their 2024 first round draft pick for Mac Jones? No, I mean, they're not. I don't see that happening. So no. And like I said, okay, I know I was a Mac Jones guy. I was the guy that said that they should take him. And that's fine. I think they would have been just fine with Mac Jones here in San Francisco, given the way that Kyle Shanahan runs his offense. But no, they shouldn't make the move to go pick up Mac Jones.
Yeah, definitely not. At that point, you're definitely killing any confidence that Trey Lance has left in him. You're basically pulling the plug on that project if that's what you decide to do, because you're telling him that you made a mistake. And so you're going to go get the guy that you felt like you should have drafted, which I know that Shanahan chose Trey Lance. It's funny because I think a lot of the things out there, and I know people still believe that he really wanted Mac Jones. That's not the case. I can assure you of that.
Well, it's funny because that's why you're seeing all the same people are bringing it up, and it's good for us, right? It's good. We just got to talk out of it, and we got 170 something viewers watching this show because Mac Jones's head was on the front of it and what have you. I think Mac Jones gets more hate than he does. I don't know why Mac Jones gets the hate from 49er fans that they do. I'll kind of leave it. I'll leave it. I mean, I guess it's better to. I should probably just stop because I just don't get it. I don't get it. It's wild. The 49ers could have really helped. Would have been good for the 49ers if he had played good last night.
Yeah, they could have. They definitely needed that. The Patriots to beat the Bears. There's no doubt about that.
I think they're tied now, and the Bears would have the tiebreaker over them. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I don't know. Anyway, I know we're running late.
As with the Falcons, by the way.
Yes, the Falcons would too. So right now, the 49ers' only chance is their division. Got a lot of things that I could talk about, Jesse, but I know you've got a show coming up. What's coming on?
Yeah, so I've got Sunil coming on over at Last Second Sports. We're going live there in just a few minutes. So if you're not done with 49ers content, head on over to Last Second Sports. We'll keep it pumping.
There you go. Perfect. Get yourselves over to Jesse's channel, Last Second Sports. That's in the bottom in the description here. Before you head out, if you could do me a favor, hit that like button, please. And if you're checking it out and you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button as well. A lot of good content here. Did my film breakdown on the offense earlier. There'll be some defensive stuff probably coming up tomorrow or at some point. I might be able to take a look at that, or it'll be on my Twitter page. I'm not sure. I'll get some stuff up there for that. And then also get over to foreigners.pressdemocrat.com. My film review, if you didn't check out the one here, I'll have a little bit of defensive stuff is going to be coming up. I'm about ready to start writing that as soon as we get off here. So, hey, Jesse, thank you a lot. It's always a lot of fun getting together.
Absolutely, brother. We'll see you next week.
All right. Yep, you too. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Talk to y'all soon. Thursday. It's Tuesday. Come on, Jack. Pull it together.